Hello and welcome to Zak's Traders Cafe. Today I'm joined by Ivan Murphy, who's the non-executive chairman at Harena. And how are you today, Ivan?
I'm very well, Zach. Nice to talk to you again.
Right, the headline for me, as somebody that looks at the market every day, is that you're a rare earths company. At the moment, rare earths is probably up there with gold in terms of being hotter than July. You came to the market in the spring, and you've had a decent run so far. But maybe you can tell us what your focus is and exactly what you do.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, will do. Look, the company did an RTO to get listed in March last year, and then I joined the board in August and put together a fundraising of about $1.5 million, £1.2 million or thereabouts. And that was really the second stage of the RTO in order to put money into the company to move it forward. So, as you said, we are a rare earth company. Our project is in Madagascar. It is one of the largest proven JORC resource heavy rare earth projects in the world. It's very important at the outset to say a couple of distinguishing factors about our project. First of all, we are not an exploration company. We have more resource than we're going to need in any reasonable time frame. And we are not a mining company insofar as that our project is an ionic clay heap leaching process. Now, this is really important because with your opening remarks, you mentioned the gold market. Now, the gold market is very homogeneous in many respects. There's a spot price, and there are similar costs to production depending on where you are. But give or take, you can use some high-level matrix to value your gold companies. Now, in this current rare earth rush, let's call it, there's going to be a lot of winners and, sorry, a lot of some winners and probably a lot of losers. And the reason for that is really a geological thing. The Chinese dominate the rare earth space, which you can't pick up the paper and not notice, for the simple reason it's not an innovative advantage or a technological or a better geological or geophysicist advantage. It's a much simpler Mother Nature advantage where they have heavy rare earths in ionized clay, which is exactly what we have. And why that gives them the advantage is very simple. It's very easy to extract and it's all on the surface. So just like them with our project, we're not blowing up stuff. We're not blasting holes. We're not blowing up rock. We're not crushing rock. It's not that. It's surface clay over the first 4 to 8 meters. You treat it in situ. You create a concentrate. You ship the concentrate for refining. So we can be in production from where we are today, first production within about 12 to 18 months, which is significantly faster than a lot of these higher profile projects that are, a little ahead of us in terms of their market awareness. Doesn't mean they won't work, and it's not to criticize competitors. That's not what it's about. But it is important when you're talking about rare earths to take the time to understand the difference. Heavy rare earth are the keys. They're the ones that drive the magnet business. They're the ones with the higher values. But rock formation and the physiological issues around that, the separation issues and the refining issues, is much more complex, just obviously, than ionized clays. So I think those are very key distinguishing factors for us. The other thing, because you did mention the gold business, which I think is a good reference for us because we're in a similar rush to them, is also pricing. So rare earths aren't that rare. First, that's another thing to worth mentioning. It's the extraction and extracting them in a profitable way, which is very challenging, and that's rarer. And also because you can have a different basket. So you can't really compare my rare earths to another project in Brazil or whatever, because unless you know what the makeup is of the basket of elements you have, you don't have a spot price. So I may have a lower grade and what looks like a less interesting project to the next guy or vice versa, but his or mine could be worth more than his just because I have a better combination of elements which have a higher value and are more in demand, like heavy rare earths. So that's a kind of a high level, but pretty much a decent summary of what our distinguishing factors are and where we're going with our project. We're in Madagascar. Madagascar is a very reasonable place to do business. I myself have been involved in this project since 2010. I can assure you, Zach, in 2010, talking about rare earths wasn't quite the way it is now. Everybody wants to talk to me now and everybody wants to know about rare earths. In 2010, it was a trickier sell because it was just a lower level of understanding. And we all didn't have hybrid cars then, Priuses weren't as common and all that sort of stuff. So Now the market has identified that, and this is what I think we're seeing the demand and this kind of rare earth rush, let's call it again, is because of that. You know, in addition to that, this is hugely compounded by the geopolitical situation we're in. The president of the USA has made very clear agendas about his need to secure critical mineral security. And critical minerals include rare earths, but it also includes other things, but very specifically rare earths, so that this trade war he's now locked in with the Chinese isn't going to continue to have restrictions for them to develop their technological things and all the other things around EVs that they want to do in the US. So that's made this even more exciting for non-Chinese projects. And you've seen the US just do what they do best. When they go for something, they go for something. The DoD, Department of Defense in the USA, has now made a $600 million direct investment into MP Materials, which is a huge rare earth producer, refiner, and maker of magnets in the US, whose share price is up some 400% in the last 20 months. So from a 4 million, 3 million billion market cap to now an 11 billion, going to 12 probably today market cap. So, and now one of their biggest shareholders is the Department of Defense. You have to love America. I think we could take some tips here from that sort of policy if we want in the UK to have good mineral security. This is the sort of thing I think you need to be about. So we've seen other US companies, Energy Fuels, bought Base Materials, which is a Madagascar project in the country that we're in. Um, they've now bought that to develop out more critical minerals there. It's not a rare earth project; it's a graphite project and stuff like that. But it's still in this critical space. So it's a hugely exciting time to have a project like this, and timing is everything, right? So we're sitting right in a very sweet spot, and just building the profile, building the awareness of our project, and very excited about what we get to do next.
Right. I mean, I've obviously spoken to you before about Harena, and you've obviously outlined yourself the rising tide in your space. So, all things being equal, Harena Resources, rare earths company, the rare earths are on fire. You're going to do well. The company specific aspects, though, are the size of the project, and also the fact that you are, I suppose, in terms of your peers, almost like a bucket and spade type of company in the sense you have that near surface, you have a massive asset, and you're good to go. In at least in terms of your sector, almost immediately. 18 months is like very, very quick, right?
Yeah, we're at the stage now where we're just making submissions to the Ministry of Mines in Madagascar for the conversion of our license into what you call a mining license, which is effectively your production license. So we had an exploration license, our current license called transformative, and now you get your mining license to go into production. I was just in Perth last week in Australia at the Africa Down Under conference, where I hosted a delegation from the Ministry of Mines from Madagascar with us for the week, which was fantastic. And I shared a podium with the chief of staff from the ministry in at Africa Down Under, and I spoke, and he spoke obviously more generally about Madagascar. I spoke about our project, and this was a great chance just to continue to build our relationship with our partner in the government in Madagascar. I'm leaving after this call for Washington D.C. for my second visit in 4 weeks or even 3 weeks. This week, there is a delegation from Madagascar in Washington talking about various trade issues and opportunities between Madagascar and the US. And we are very much part of that agenda, given the nature of our project and the critical mineral aspect of our project. So I'll fly over there tonight, and I'll be there with that delegation over the next couple of days in the US.
Right, just to finish, lots of companies trying to get on the rare earth bandwagon, and what tends to happen is investors get confused between the companies who are the let's say the legitimate plays and with the legitimate management, and those who are just trying to get on the bandwagon. What are the bullet points that you would sort of highlight in terms of Arena compared to other companies in your space?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because that's going to be the tricky thing for investors, right? And you know, the winners and losers, especially in a sector that's moving at this pace. I think what you've got on the distinguishing side is we're main board listed in the London Stock Exchange. We now own 100% of our project. We have a clean, direct corporate structure. We have a board that includes people who've been involved in this project, two of us who've been involved in this project since 2010. We have an executive technical director in Alan Mulligan who's worked on an ionic clay project in Uganda. Now, this puts him in a very small group of people because outside of China, there ain't a lot of ionic clay projects. So I think that's a huge bonus for us to have that level of of experience in a very specialized business within the mining sector. He's also built graphite mines, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a guy who can definitely deliver and get this to production. We have a shareholder base that includes some very interesting US institutions now as a result of our recent placing, which is unusual. We're going to appoint an advisory board very shortly that will have some of the major names in the mining business that will be known to most investors shortly. So I think that will add that further clarification that this is built to be and go where it should be. We have started our process to have an OTC listing in the US. This is a really important step for us. That connectivity with the USA is really important. They're the big buyer and the big backer of projects. And they're going to be discerning and obviously which ones they do and don't do. So I think that'll be another validation when we make further announcements and confirm this connectivity that we're working on in the US. So look, I think all of that does put us in a different space. One of the questions we get asked is you've got a reserve and a resource jorked and which you could value at anywhere from 4 to 6 billion, depending on what matrices you want to use for 600,000 tons. Why is your market cap 9 million or whatever it is, 8 or 9 million now? And you know what? It's just a market catch up thing. It's just us, having just put money into the box in August. I joined the board then and brought in the new people. We've restructured since the RTO. We've now got 100% of the project. And we're now in that phase of, educating the market about what we're about. That's why I was in Perth last week. And I think that our valuation will start to reflect those differences. We've got a mining license to complete and announce. We've got connectivity in the US to announce, a listing in the US, which would be hugely helpful. We have a huge demand and interest in our project in the US, but we can't access that investor interest. They're not going to buy shares in the UK, as you know, in the main, certainly not the retail buyer. So we're working with a nice group there out of the States. So I think that differentiation will start to become more obvious in these coming weeks when we make further announcements and continue to deliver on what we said we would do. And I think that will see us just not push away from the herd, but get separated out and just be shown for what we are.
Ivan Murphy, non-executive chairman at Harena. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Zach. Nice to talk to you.